Welcome back to the channel. My name is Saucebreaker. Cult of the Lamb has been out for a while by now. It came out in 2022, and after its release, we got 3 major updates, some follower DLCs, and 2 really great comics. With 2025 looking bright, I wanted to take some time to talk about some of these updates that happened in the past, and most importantly, the future of the game and what could possibly be next for Cult of the Lamb based on all the evidence we have now. With all that being said, let's get into it. Let's start at the beginning to boot. Cult of the Lamb is an indie game created by Massive Monster. They are an Australian game studio, and some games they created before Cult of the Lamb were The Adventure Pals, Never Give Up, and Unicycle Giraffe. It's safe to say that these games didn't garner that much success for them. Especially with the cute art style that they used, many would write them off as a studio catering towards kids games, more than anything else. This pushed them to take a different approach, look at a different theme for the game, and they decided to go for a horror occult game. They wanted to make a game that was a roguelite, basically a more casual roguelike game where it isn't totally random with each run. In addition to that, a base building aspect to the game. However, when it came to the story of the game, that went through a few revisions. It started with a lamb god that was kicked out of a pantheon and had to rebuild his following on Earth. Next, they had a lamb running hell as like an owner. But they didn't want to dive into the torture with an idea like that. Eventually, they landed on the lamb running a cult, and this idea is what got them the deal with the devil with Devolver Digital. Cult of the Lamb was first announced at Gamescom in August 2021, and it was finally released on August 11th, 2022. The game at launch had 4 main areas with the Old Faith and their bishops, a final boss, a bunch of followers, and a good chunk of buildings and decor. Once you beat the game, you could do whatever you want, as there were not a lot of post-game content other than just getting more followers and maxing out your divine inspiration. Overall, a full game with lots to do. It's great. The next drop of content Cult of the Lamb received was a seasonal update called Blood Moon Festival, which was first acted on October 10th through November 2022. This event added a new limited time ritual, Blood Moon Ritual. Crazy, I know. New followers, Cursed Crow, Demonic Demon, and Skeleta Wendigo, and new decorations. While it was only an event meant for Halloween, it's pretty nice to get some more decor and followers, but it wasn't offering too much new. And this was a seasonal event, so it vanished after November came around, but it does seem that this event does reappear every Halloween, so you're not missing on too much as long as you wait a little bit. Now we come to the first big expansion to the game, the Relics of Old Faith update. This expansion released on April 24th, 2023, and added a post-game content that I mentioned at the launch of the game that it really needed. This update brought a new post-game storyline, revamped boss fights and enemies, post-game progression, a new item to trade and get new rewards and items, relics to collect in combat, Clemec, heavy attacks, shielded enemies, moving rivers, purgatory and challenge runs, new buildings, bishops as followers, and pausing time at your cult so you can crusade. Wait, I didn't know about that one. All this in one update. As you can tell, the devs were listening. Oh, and the Mystic Seller. How could I forget the Mystic Seller? Overall, this update was amazing, and all of the shortcomings that you might have had for the game at the start were blown out of the water with this. In addition to this free update, was also a paid DLC with some more followers and a fleece, which, if you were looking for something more akin to that, you could sink your teeth into those. Funny enough, while this update really did help with the roguelite aspect of the game by a lot, especially since it lacked it at the start, once the dust settled for this update, the base building aspect wasn't really affected at all in this update, besides the pausing in time, which I thought was part of the loop of the game, not gonna lie. You would eventually run out of food, followers, materials, and you would have to go get some more. However, once I got caught up in the new content for the game, I ended up with a surplus of stuff, and there wasn't really much interaction with the followers you could do up to this point. I'm saying there was no interaction to be had with a follower, but at that point in the game you would just have a routine with them anyways. Still, these are only things we could see in hindsight. Even then, this update holds so much good stuff that it doesn't drag it down at all. This was the first update I waited for when it was announced, and it seemed to be our first collab in the game. It started off with a teaser, and we got a trailer for this update. the Don't Starve Together X Cult of the Lamb. This one will be pretty short. Both collabs added something small nods to each game. And for Cult of the Lamb, we got a new follower, Weber, some decorations, and a new mode called Penitence. If we didn't get Penitence mode, I would call this one of the most mid content drops for the game, as if it was almost nothing really changed for the game, and the few things added were pretty small. The Penitence mode was a great addition to the game. It was a hard mode where you had to factor in hunger and sleep, and death will result in a permadeath and remove all of your save data. Permadeath has been in the game, but it was locked behind an objective where if you don't have any followers for 2 days, the next time you die it will be permanent. However, in Penitence mode, it's at the start, baby. While it isn't my favorite update, I do think it was a good collab for those who like Don't Starve Together, and Penitence is pretty good. Oh yeah, Sins of the Flesh, in the same ballpark of Relics of Old Faith, the next big expansion for the game that added so much to the game. All of my criticisms for Relics of Old Faith for your camp and followers were addressed here. This expansion was released on January 16th, 2024, so a year at this point. The main feature that was added was the Sin system, which was a new currency that you would collect from your followers from doing new rituals and other activities. After a follower gave you Sin, you could use Sin to create baby followers and update your temple. It was a great addition to the game, and we got some buildings that really helped with making Sin, like the drink house. Besides Sin, what else was added? Chore levels were added, so when cleaning up poop/vomit or that house, your mop would level up, making it faster to clean stuff. Not only that, but more poop variations were added as well, such as a rainbow poop and golden poop. Some fun stuff. But the camp wasn't the only place that we got new stuff. Within the Crusade were lore tablets. 15 of these tablets were added for you to find. Not to mention, while looking for these tablets, you could be putting enemies in the dirt with the Blunderblist. The new weapon, which was added, which I'm also so happy that we got a new fighting style for your main weapon, this one being a gun. You can tell I really love this update for the game, and I think it got all the main problems the game had at that point, which was bare bones late game camp, and took it all away. Having something to work on while you go on crusades was great. Not only that, but the new gun made this update not feel like it was neglecting combat of the game while they were working on the camp. The Sin system really helped with making you do activities with your followers, and for that, I think this was the best update that we got up to this point. Really touching up on the base building, while also just adding a hint of combat update as well. A bit of a short one, and not really an update to the game itself, but around June 5th, 2024, the first graphic novel for Cult of the Lamb dropped with 4 chapters in total. While not making a dent in the game itself, I do think it was cool to see Cult of the Lamb in a different medium. I like to look at it like the collab that we got beforehand, but it's only just about the game, and it being seen through different lens. And finally, we reached the most recent update for the game, released in August 12, 2024. I already talked about most things in this update in its own video, but to sum it up, the main course of this update was local co-op, allowing a friend to play as the goats, and if you're on PC, you could play Steam Remote Play to do online play, but on console, it was no such luck and it was only local play. This update spiced up the personalities of your followers. In total, 22 new traits were added, and there are also some new fleeces, relics, and tarot cards you would get after beating the last boss and just dying somewhere to unlock it. We also got a questline for the bishops, which I think was the highlight of this update for me, and some other small changes, and with the paid DLC that came around this time, we also got the Pilgrim Pack, which was also a great addition with its own graphic novel. Although this update didn't do too much with the new content, I'm still happy that we got local co-op, making it a great game to pop in with a buddy. So that brings us to today. What could be next for the game? In an animation video with the goat and lamb fishing, near the end of the video, after the lamb is taken into the water from a fish monster, the ice gets frozen over and the goats and lamb can walk on it, and they look into the mist. We know that there are other lands from the Pilgrim Pack, as Jalala comes from a place outside of the lands of the Old Faith, which is where the game takes place after all, and she was sent there via ship before a sea monster tore it up. How the current map is now is okay. While it is good to visit other areas when you get the chance the first time around, after you find and do all the quests in the area, there's almost no point to going back. The only ones I can think of is the lighthouse to go fishing, the gold cave if you want to use the well. Other than that, once you beat everyone in Knucklebones and buy everything from Plimbo, there's no reason to go back. I wonder if we're gonna meet any new gods or travel anywhere else, and if we can meet other versions or relatives or characters that we can find in the Crusade. I do think that the new major update will be a new land or new areas at the least. We know this especially if you look on the Steam page for Cult of the Lamb, so where they hint to this very animation as a teaser for what's next, after the 6 Years of Love post. So, if that's the case, I would love to see more gods or bishops if it makes sense for them to do so. But if not, I'm just really excited to see what they do with this template. Other changes I would love to see to the game or be added is just maybe a new weapon or curse. Possibly a curse, since I'm not sure when was the last time we got a new one, but hopefully it's something very different to what we already have. I hope for some expanded lands in the camp to add more decor, since it's a bit hard to decorate in such a small space, especially when you have to build some of these important buildings and have farming ones as well, like the stone mine and the lumber. Next would be any new info on the Mystic Cellar, or just anything on him, or just more stuff to spend your god tiers on. I don't know. But I think that's all the stuff I would want added into the game. I might be forgetting some things, and if I did, or if you want something different in the game, let me know in the comments below. And remember to join the cult and subscribe. Until then, I will see you guys next time.